Tripping at Swami's Beach, David Lecours.
It had been a long week, and I was really looking forward to going surfing. I'd been following the swell with great enthusiasm on my iPhone. I had this special app that told me today was going to be the biggest day. In fact, there was a flashing yellow icon on this app that said, "No kooks allowed." I got to the beach, I parked, I started putting on my wetsuit, and as I looked out, the sun was starting to set. I could see that the waves were really good. So I was eager to put on my wetsuit, and as I was putting it on, it was noticeably really tight. Frankly, this was kind of validating because in the off season, I'd been working out and I was bulking up. Until I noticed that I was putting my leg through the armhole of the wetsuit. You see, sometimes when you look too far ahead, you miss the thing that's right in front of you. In this case, it was the leg hole. So I got my wetsuit on, and I knew that the water temperature had dropped considerably in the last couple days, and so that I knew that if I wanted to leave the water without a pair of footsicles, I was going to need to wear my wetsuit booties. I grabbed one of my booties, and I noticed there was something rattling around in it, and I just assumed it was a coin, and I dumped it out, and I put the booties on, and now I was suited up, and I was ready to go. Started jogging across the train tracks on the other side of Swami's Park, got to the edge of the 101, and the sun was off in the distance, and it was kind of shining in my eyes. I knew I probably had about an hour, hour and a half. And there were two things I noticed ahead of me. One was that I needed to hop the curb in order to get up to where the park was. The other thing I noticed was that there was the women's college cross-country team getting ready to go for a run. They were an attractive group, and at the risk of sounding like a dirty old man, let's just say they were very fit. That was the last thing that went through my head before I became airborne. You see, that white curb that I noticed ahead of me was after the black curb that I did not see that was creating a bike lane between Highway 101 and the sidewalk. Now all of a sudden I was in midair. Not a single foot, not a hand, not anything was touching the ground. But I still had my surfboard under my arm. This was not the type of ride that I had anticipated. Until all of a sudden, bam! I slammed into the curb, landing simultaneously on my wrist, on my knee, on my chest, and on my board. My board hitting the curb is what created this explosive sound. The next thing I noticed, that women's cross-country team was all hovered over me. Like a series of angels, asking me, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine. The adrenaline kicked in and I was off. I was not going to let my pride and my ridiculous trip, because the curb that I didn't see is the fact that sometimes when you look too far ahead of you, you miss the thing that's right in front of you. So I started going down the stairs at Swami's, eager to get in the water, not really sure how injured I was because I still had all this adrenaline. And I realized that my knee was starting to tighten. And I thought, well, what do you do for this type of injury? You put an ice pack on it. Well, in my infinite wisdom, I thought, well, the Pacific Ocean, being as cold as it is, would be this wraparound ice pack for my knee. Well, after my first wave, I quickly realized that that was not the best solution. I had no business being out in the water that day. And then I started to get a little bit panicky, like maybe I really do have a serious injury. I've torn my ACL. I need reconstructive surgery. I'm going to be out of the water. I'm not going to be able to work. I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. I'm going to lose my house. I started looking way ahead, and the best wave of the day passed me right by. Because sometimes when you look too far ahead, you miss the thing that's right in front of you. So I said, I need to go in. I caught the next wave, rode it on my stomach, which, by the way, if you're a surfer, You don't ride waves on your stomach. That is a step backwards in the evolutionary chain. Boogie boarders, or we call them spongers, ride waves on their stomach. Surfers stand tall. But I got to the beach, I started limping along, and let me tell you, I'd never been so happy to see a handrail on a series of stairs that allowed me to pull myself up the stairs up to the top of the park. I got to my car, and I started changing back into my street clothes. And I noticed there's a little glimmer in the back seat of my car with all my clothes, and I started putting them on, and I noticed that was my missing wedding ring. I'd been missing this wedding ring for the last 6 months. And to be honest with you, it was actually my backup wedding ring. Because I had lost my original wedding ring, and this was the backup. And as you can imagine, I wasn't very popular with my wife, losing 2 wedding rings. And I found this ring that I had used as my backup that I had purchased in Nepal about probably 8 years prior. And I looked at it, and I saw that there was this inscription on it. And it said in Sanskrit, "Be present." And that's when I realized that this ring was the thing that I thought was just a coin that I had dumped out in my booty when I was getting ready, so excited to get in the water. Because sometimes when you look too far ahead, you miss the thing that's right in front of you.